Good morning, guys. All right, we're going to try to teach a few basics here and things that will help enhance your paintings. I've been painting, I don't know. Well, actually, I was watching Bob Ross like crazy back in 1991. And I never did quite get as good as him, but I'm still working on mine. Still practicing almost every day. Outside of gardening, I love to paint. Okay, let's get started. Again, we're going to just do some basics. Don't worry about the colors. In future videos, I'll get a lot more detail. But these videos I'm doing right now, they're mainly to either get you interested in painting and knowing that you can learn how to paint, and then showing you just some basic stuff, real simple things that you can practice with and get better. And before you know it, you can compose, a beautiful canvas. Once you learn these basic tips, you can paint wall murals. I've done quite a bit of that kind of stuff. Anyway, wall murals, custom shoes, custom hats, scripture signs, and I've made pretty good money selling some of those things. So, okay, let's get going. The basic today is just a leaf. So I'm taking some green paint and I'm going to change the shade at least 2 times. I need a dark shade of the green. Now when you're doing black paint in anything to darken it, you always want to put the black paint to the side and then just dab a little bit of a damp brush. Grab a little bit of that black paint and stir it into the green paint till you get the color that you like. Right now, what I like to do is get a good contrast between my colors, because today I'm going to be showing you how to do some blending and enhancing a simple leaf. Well, I'm just not getting enough on there. Okay. You want your paint at the consistency for it to blend well. For me, you want the paint to be like a thick gravy. Okay. And all I'm using here is an old scruffy brush that I use as a stir brush. And now we're going to change the color of another one, which is add a little bit of white to the green. Of course, when I use my stir brush, I'm also getting a little bit of water on the brush as well. Anytime you add, sorry for the cat in the background. Actually, there's some kittens in my house. And they hear me and they want out. When you add white to your paint, white is always thick. So you want to be sure to add some water. And that's what I'm doing when I dip my brush in my cup. I'm getting a little bit of water and then stirring that around. And you can start seeing the contrast between the greens. This is the regular green, light green, and dark green. All right, I am going to use what is called it's just a thin brush. You can use a script brush. You can draw out your pattern if you want with a pencil. It's totally up to you. But I am going to grab me up a little bit of paint, and this background I just did in a light blue and white. Nothing fancy. Again, we're just showing the basics, and we're going to work with a leaf. So let's draw out a leaf. A lot of times I'm not real happy with my first part of the drawing, but I will change it up a little bit when I start filling it in. Let's just make this thing a little bit bigger. All right. I think that will do nicely. Again, that's just a liner brush. Let's see if you can see this well. It's a pretty thin brush. It's great for doing veins or twirly vines. I use it a lot, believe it or not. It's one of my favorite brushes. Anyway, it's very thin, it's very skinny. This particular one is called a mid-liner, and they do not make them any longer. But you can get thin brushes from like Low Cornell, which is, they have some excellent brushes. I found on Walmart, they actually had another one of my favorites, which is the round brushes. And it's by that Royal Langnickel, I think is how you pronounce it, Langnickel. Excellent brushes. Very, very, very good brushes. They keep a nice point on them for a very, very long time. Okay. So I'm going to use this large round one. And you always want to damp your brush off first. Make sure it's damp. And we're just going to fill in this leaf. And when you're filling it in, you get a little bit of paint on your brush. And you want to brush it out. You don't want ridges. So you just bring it all the way down. And again, I'll straighten up mine a little bit. You don't have to do this. But using the round brush really helps to line out the edges. You just want to fill it in all the way. And if you notice, depending on what the project you're working on, you can move it around. So you end up getting nice edges this way. Obviously, if you're working on a wall, you can't do that. So you gotta move your body around. Large canvases, pretty much the same. I've done sofa size canvases before, and you just have to get your body at a certain angle on your hand so you can get those nice edges. Okay, notice that it's splotchy. That's the first coat. Now, if I was working on something extremely important, I would let this dry, and then I'd go over it one more time. So there's no splotchy colors. But because we're going to be blending, those splotches will cover up quite a bit in the next couple of coats of paint. So we're going to let that dry for a minute. All right, it's pretty much dry. And I've got paint all over me. Great. Oh well. You want to use, this is like another scruffy brush, but I use this a lot to do some blending. Let me see if I can, so you can tell on this brush, it's just pretty roughed out. It used to be an awesome brush. Anyway, so I'm going to use this. You can use something small that you have. I'm going to use this one to help blend. And again, I'm using this nice thick round brush to apply my paint to the leaf. Alright, I'm taking the dark green. We're going to start at the base of this leaf. The same dark green I used to start creating this. Again, there's so many ways you can darken your paints. You could add red to it, you could add brown to it, you don't have to do black. But for simplicity, I'm showing you a real simple way. Alright, I've got that paint on there. I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm going with the lighter color. Get as close to the edge as you can. If you don't get right on the edge, not a big deal. I'll show you how to fix that. The two colors are there. My scruffy brush is damp, not wet, just damp. I'm going to take it from the light, just pouncing, and go down into the dark. That way you don't actually see quite where I applied the light to the dark. I used to tell the students that I taught many years ago, just do a dancing. Let your brush just dance. It gets a little splotchy, and that's okay because that's what we want. The leaf is not all one color. That's still a little damp. We're going to use just this light color again. Start filling it in. And of course, blending, you have to act a little fast, and if that's annoying to you, then there are paint mediums you can use that you can add to your paint that will slow the drying time down. Of course, you can always paint with oils, and oh my goodness, you can blend until the cows come home before it dries on you. All I'm doing is dancing the colors together. This is already dry down here, but you can start to see the difference, the light to the dark. Now, when I told you how to catch the edges, you can see where I didn't catch the edges here. I use that lighter brush, dampen it, grab you a little bit of that light green, and just go ahead and fill that in. If you show up with a line by adding that, just use your little scruffy brush to kind of dance it out. Okay. I should have added a little bit of white to my palette. I'm just going to do a little dot of white. And while this is still wet up here at the point of the leaf, I'm going to add a little bit of just pure white just to give it a little something. Again, you can stop at any point here and the leaf still looks decent. It's a nice small painting. If you're doing leaves on a painting and you just want to stop there, that's all you got to do. Let's add a little bit more white here to this. And then I'm just going to barely tap it. Okay, you should be able to see the color, the difference in all the colors as they're blending down. It does look splotchy, and I'm good with that. You can, if you don't care for that splotchy look, you can apply this whole technique again. Dark, medium to light. And do your dancing with your brush to blend the colors. And there won't be any splotchy look. But I like it for a leaf. Kind of gives you all those different discolorations of a leaf. Okay. Now, we're going to water down the paint a little bit more because we need to do the veins for the leaf. I'm going to use this light green. Again, I'm getting some water. Now this is almost the consistency of Jell-O when you first make Jell-O. It's very, very, very thin. Using the thin brush, skinny brush. When you load your brush, especially when you want to do small lines, when you load your brush, you're going to twirl it off, and that brings it back to a point. And it also reassures you don't have a big clump of paint on there, because that doesn't make a nice line. So fill it full of paint, twirl it off. Okay, we're going to start down here at the base. Now I'm going to curve a little bit because it just helps. Instead of doing a straight line for a leaf, it just looks better if you do a little bit of a curve. You're not seeing it very well right here, but when I add my highlights, you will. There we go. Now let's add, starting from the main vein, we're going to add some more veins to the leaf. This takes practice, guys, to keep it thin. Turn it a different direction is what I do to get the other side. I don't do quite straight lines. These are going to be a little curvy. Hope you can see that. You will be able to a little bit more once I highlight those. Okay, now I'm going to add a little shadow to the vein by using this dark, but I need it to be really wet, so I'm going to pull over a little bit of paint here so I can get this nice and wet. Again, the consistency of Jell-O before it sets. All right, we're doing the same thing. We're going to load our brush. We're going to twirl it off so you get a nice fine point. All I'm going to do is go to the side, right at the edge of the main vein, to the right side. You're not going to see it that well in the dark area, but in the light area, you will. Okay, same thing on these other small side veins. Load your brush, twirl off the paint. Okay, we're going to do the opposite side. Load your brush, twirl the paint. All I'm doing is running a line right next to the light color vein. Now, I mean, you could stop here. This is a decent leaf, but if you want to keep enhancing, next thing we're going to do is highlight that main vein. So I'm using the light color green again. I'm going to add just a little bit more white to it. And again, when you add white to anything, you need to make sure you add a little water because white is so thick. And you see the difference in the colors. this is going to stand out a little bit more. Again, you fill your brush. Let me make sure I don't have any water on it. Fill your brush and then twirl. I'm going to come back in here and just highlight part of that vein. And then a little bit to the side veins. Okay. Not real crazy about that one right there. I may have to go back over it a little bit. So to fix that vein, because it's a little too much for me, I'm going to take the big brush, and since that's kind of the dark area, I'm going to grab a little bit of the dark paint. So it's so easy to fix little mistakes. I'm going to barely go over it, rinse my brush off, and then blend that a little bit so it doesn't show up as much. See, it toned it down a little. Okay, another fun thing you could do with your leaf is, let's say that leaf is folded. So we want to take the light color green, this green here, fill your brush with the thin brush, fill it up with paint, twirl it off, and we'll do this side here. We're going to come in here and just add, not a straight line at all. Grab that same light color green, and you're going to fill that in. Grab you a little bit of that white. We need that fold over of the leaf to show up. Lighten that up a little bit more. Now I don't want it all that one color, so I'm going to grab just a little bit of the dark while everything is still wet, and just brush that on, blending right into that white light green I just added. See, it begins to look like a fold over leaf, which if you did the shape, if I would have done the shape a little differently, I could have shaped the leaf to where it's a little off shaping right through here because of the fold over. That still works. Notice that little funky thing right there? We'll fix that by using the liner brush. Grab a little bit of the dark. Make that disappear. Or you could use the background color. That would make it disappear as well. I'm going to add a little bit more light to the fold over part of the leaf. Using my big round brush that's still damp, and just let those strokes go on down. Now for this to really pop, the fold over part, I'm going to use the dark green again. And we're going to go right underneath that fold over. Now you can't leave it like that, well I guess you could, but with a damp brush, rinsed off, all I'm going to do is little quick strokes before it dries. what that ends up being is a little bit of a shadow. Alright, I'm going to highlight that fold over one more time. Some of this you don't have to do, it's just my personal preference. I want it to pop a little bit more. So I'm using the light green and a tad bit of white. Rinse the brush off. I want to move this around a little bit, but I don't want to lose the light. I don't want it perfect coverage either. It's got to look like a leaf. It usually has quite a few different colors in it. All I did was add a little bit of dark. Okay. Now we can stop there and say, okay, we're done. But let's not. You can add a little bit more to this by grabbing you a little bit of your, where is my light blue? Because I used a blue and white for the background, I'm going to add a little bit of blue to my palette. Get paint all over my fingers, great. A little bit of blue and a whole lot of white because my background is a super light blue, so going in here with a tad bit of blue on there. Let's try that again. That's a little bit better. Now this can be like you have bug bites, where a bug's been chewing on your leaf. Let's say you come in here and do just some squiggly looking things. Doesn't have to be real big. And then we'll highlight that and it looks like a bug bite. Reason being is you're showing your background color so it looks like the leaf does actually have a hole in it. Or you can do it on a side. Kind of look like it's got chomp marks on it, which as a gardener, when you're trying to grow something very pretty, that's very annoying. But when you're an artist and you're trying to capture nature, that's pretty cool. So again, I'm doing the white and the blue, which is my background color, and I want to make this part of the leaf just kind of disappear, so it looks like it's been chomped on. All right. Now, to make this highlight that just a little bit is just a very small touch of white with that light green again. And you can go around the spot just a little bit to highlight. All I'm going in is a little bit more of the background color that's on my board to fill in the spot here, just so it shows up even better. See, it's almost disappearing, this right here, this edge. So I'll add a little bit more white just to get that spot to disappear, where it doesn't look like the leaf was ever there. That spot has been chewed away. It's getting there. So you see, even with acrylic paint, you can just keep working it and working it. I started off in my painting with oil paints, and eventually I went towards acrylic paint. And I've really enjoyed it. I've absolutely enjoyed it. Okay, so we have a basic leaf. We can stop there, right? But we're not. Okay, I'm gonna say the sun is coming in this direction. We're gonna give a little bit of a shadow on the background here. So to do that, you want to take your background color of whatever you're working with, which mine was light blue, and I'm going to add just, the smallest smidge of black paint. For a background shadow, usually you want the background color, you want it lightened a little bit, and you want to add a touch of black, or you could do a touch of brown. You kind of want a grayish color of your background, so it makes it a little bit more believable. And you want to make sure your large round brush is damp and ready to go, because you're going to have to blend it pretty quick. Okay, so we got a little bit of black, a little bit with my background color. Oh, and I'm doing a no-no again. Let's use our stir brush. A little bit of white, a little bit of the blue, added to a touch of black. Let's do just a smidge more. Yeah, that smidge is too big. Let's go over here and work this. A little bit of black, a little bit of blue, and I'm putting a little bit of water in there. That's a little better. Okay, so right now at this point, this is a light gray with a touch of blue in it and white. That's going to make a nice shadow color for the leaf. And it's really wet, guys. You want it very wet. I'm going to use my liner brush so I can get pretty close. Right next to the leaf. You can start to tell that it's a little bit of a shadow, and it will pop more once we put some highlights on there. I'm going into the little chewed part of the leaf and going all the way to the top. Okay, using my large brush here that's damp. All I'm going to do is just rub that a little bit. I want a line, but then not quite so perfect. This is probably already dry down here a little bit, so add a little bit more water. There we go. Just had to move that a little bit more. Now, I really would like that a little bit darker, so I'm going to let that dry for a minute and go right back over it again. I'd like for that shadow to show up. In the meantime, while that's drying, one more little effect you can do. Again, you can stop here. Isn't that lovely? You can stop there, or you can water down a little bit of yellow. This is just basic yellow paint that I have watered down, nice and wet. Now watch what that does on top of this leaf. We're going to add a little bit of yellow through here and then just use our scruffy brush to blend it out. This is just straight watered down yellow. A little bit here, a little bit there. Taking the scruffy brush, just kind of dancing and moving it around a little bit. It's okay that it's going to come out here into the leaf. If you've got too much on there, rinse your brush, dampen it, and just dance it off. But by adding a little bit of this yellow, it highlights everything nicely, kind of gives you that, again, discoloration of the leaf. Not bad. I'm going to take a little bit more of that off, so I just rinsed my brush. See, you can play with this until it, of course, dries, and then if you don't like it, you can always go over it. And I think I'm going to let that stop there. Add just a little bit more of my shadow color. Back underneath that curled part of the leaf. Again, rinse your brush. And just move that around a little bit. Okay. I need to add that dark there again. I'm gonna come right inside where that place where the bug chewed on that leaf. Add a little bit more dark shadow there. Rinse your brush and just move that around a little bit, kind of break that up. Okay, you can stop there. You can just keep going. It's wild. It depends on how much time you have, how much patience you have. There's so much you can keep doing. Like for instance, here's just a little bit of white, and I'm just gonna touch right there, just in that one spot. Take the damp brush. So adding a little bit of highlight, again, just makes it pop. Adding a little highlight where the bug chewed up part of the leaf with some white, again, just enhances it a little bit more. A little bit of white, damp brush, just barely touch it to break it up a little bit. Same thing with here at the bug bite. Add just a little bit of white, just to kind of highlight that little extra. And then damp brush, break it up a little bit. See, all you're doing is you just keep enhancing until you just don't want to work on it anymore and you want to move on to something else. This is just a fun way to sit, enjoy some music, relax, and paint. I love it. There's a lot of times I listen to really good teachers while I'm painting, and I learn a lot. It calms my soul. So, that's it for now. Lord only knows how long this went. I hope y'all have learned something. And the next video will be, again, another just a simple project that you can just keep enhancing until you just don't want to enhance any longer. Y'all have a good day.